Our new board members. Hopefully you can hear the interpreter okay. If any speaker wishes to request follow-up information from the board, our secretary will document their name of the individual as well as written request for further information from the board. For rules of operation for the meeting, the chair will recognize you as you raise your hand. One person is to speak at one time to prevent overlap and also to ease the interpreting process. Do you have any questions about that? Now, I will do a roll call to make sure that we have satisfied a quorum. Bethany Yance, present. Jeff Kasinger, present. Kayla Parton, present. Robin Bush, present. Anita Gruenwald is absent. Aaron Roden is absent as well. We have 4 out of 6. We have satisfied a quorum. You all have been presented a copy of the agenda. I would like to welcome all of you all here. I want to recognize some of our special visitors that we have. Our Superintendent and Acting Commissioner of the Kentucky Department of Education, welcome. Robin Kenny, thank you. As also, welcome Greta Helton, Associate Commissioner. Shannon Sparkman, our State Director, Director of State Schools, as well as the Assistant Director of State Schools, Emma Riley. Welcome you all. Thank you. As well as everyone in the audience, thank you for your attendance today. We're going to go ahead and begin the meeting. Our election of new chair seems to be the first item. The new chair, from this point forward, will preside over the meeting. So do I hear any opening recommendations for the office of the chair? Board? Any nominations?
I would like to nominate
Bethany Yance has nominated Jeff Kasinger as the chair of the advisory board. Do we hear any other nominations? Seeing none, we'll go ahead and vote. All that would accept Jeff as the new chair, please signify by saying aye or raising your hand. The motion passes. Congratulations, Jeff. If you don't mind to come on up. Here you are. Jeff Kasinger has been vice chair before. He was my right arm whenever I was chair, so congratulations. Hello, everyone. I'm excited to be here with all of you all today. I'm looking forward to the work that we will do from here on out. All right. Our next order of business is the election of the vice chair, as well as the secretary for the board. Do I hear any nominations for vice chair? One second while the interpreter comes up behind you. A nomination has been made for Bethany Yance and accepted. Does everyone support Bethany as vice chair? Signify by saying aye. Okay. Wonderful. There we have it, our vice chair. I'm looking forward to working with you, Bethany. Congratulations. Now, secretary. Any nominations or recommendations for secretary? Ms. Bush? All right. To signify by saying aye for Ms. Bush as secretary, raise your hand. Wonderful. All right. Ms. Robin Bush is secretary. Congratulations. Robin Bush has been nominated as secretary. Bethany Yance has been nominated as vice chair. I, Jeff Kasinger, is the new chair. So let's proceed with the meeting. Now I'd like to move into the approval of the minutes from June 13th, 2023 meeting. You should have those minutes. And as well as the August 16th, 2023 meeting. You have both of those minutes presented to you. June 13th, 2023. If there are any amendments that need to be made or corrections, is there any discrepancies or disagreements with the minutes as presented? Seeing none, we'll accept them. Next order of business, August 16th, 2023 minutes. You'll have those as well. Are there any errors or corrections? Any disagreements? Then the board wishes to accept those minutes as written. Next order of business is Robin Kinney, our interim commissioner of education. We're looking for your update on the principal search. So, Robin, take it away.
Thank you. Thank you, Chair Kasinger, and congratulations. And congratulations to our other board members that were elected tonight. My name is Robin Kinney. I'm the interim commissioner at the Kentucky Department of Education. I was appointed by the Kentucky Board of Education on September 30th of 2023, so I've only been in my position for about 6 weeks. I've been very, very busy, and in my previous position, I've been at the Department of Education for 13 years total. Most recently, in the last 8 years, I've been the Associate Commissioner in the Office of Finance and Operations. So I'm very familiar with the Kentucky School for the Deaf, as well as our Kentucky School for the Blind and the students that we serve. I want to first thank you all for being here tonight. You could be anywhere else tonight, and you chose to be here. So that shows how interested that you are and how important you think the filling of our principal here at KSD is to each and every one of you, to our staff, and to our students, most importantly. So I thank you for coming and dedicating part of your evening to a conversation with me. Tonight we are going to talk about the role of the principal, but let me give you a little bit of background on the role of the interim commissioner. because I do think it's important that you understand sort of my role and what I do at the Kentucky Department of Education and the capacity that I serve in. So the role of an interim is really to keep the wheels moving. It's to keep us moving forward. It is not really to make sweeping changes of substance to how we do our work, but it is to keep us moving forward in an orderly fashion. And I'll be in this role until we fill the permanent commissioner position, which I'm keeping my fingers crossed is really quick. But it could take as long as up until the next school year. So personnel decisions and making personnel decisions are part of that moving forward capacity. We need to move forward with the filling of positions that support our staff and our students. So it's very important that we do that. But it's also very important that we do it in a very thoughtful and deliberate manner. And so part of my conversation with you tonight is talking about how we intend, with your input, how we move forward in this capacity. I know there are other issues that you are interested in and want to talk about, like why is it so hot in this building, right? So that's one you want to talk about. There'll be some reports, I think, later on your agenda about what is happening with facilities here at KSD. So my role is to talk about the principal position, although I know you have other thoughts and other things that are very important to you. And of course, we can always talk about those at a later date as well. I'm happy to talk about that at a later date. But want to be respectful of your time here with us today and the respectful of the agenda as a whole, because you have lots of other things on the agenda. So let's talk a little bit about moving forward with the position of the principal. As I said, I know that you all are very interested in that, and I know that we share a common goal in getting the very best person possible to come and lead your school. You know, this is an institution with a long history. It's also an institution that really, it's a big operation. So there's a lot of responsibilities that are associated with being the instructional leader of your school, as well as being the, let's say, the COO, or the Chief Operating Officer of your school. Unlike other school districts, the principal here has the responsibility of all the buildings here on this campus, making sure things are running smoothly, as well as the staffing, and most importantly, being the instructional leader to our students. So we're looking for someone that's pretty unique, someone that can bring most of, if not all, of those capacities to bear for our students. As many of you all know, and I'm sorry that I don't know who was on the interview panel, but I think there are probably some people in the audience that were on the interview panel. Let me thank you for your service. You had a very difficult job. So again, let me thank you for your service and serving in that capacity. As we move forward, it is still our intention to have input and participants on our interview panel that would come from maybe not, it could be individuals here, it could be other individuals, but to have more representation on that interview panel than just the KDE employees. We may have some of our staff on that, but we would also invite others to join. I will say feedback that I have received is it was a very large group. And so we may pare it down a little bit, really for the interest of the interviewer and the interviewee. It's very overwhelming for an interviewee to get on, to be in a situation where they're trying to communicate with 10 or 12 or 15 people. Very overwhelming. So we would pare that down a little bit, but still have that representation from KSD or the KSD community. The other thing that as we move forward, we'll spend a little time tonight, again, being respectful of your time. So, Chair, when I go too long, you cut me off, okay? You tell me to stop. So we're going to talk a little bit about the qualities that we want to see in that principal. We're going to review what we had posted the last time so we can become familiar with what we had the last time, and allow for a little bit input about whether those are the right qualities that we searched for the last time, and make note of any recommended revisions that you may have. We're also going to talk a little bit about a timeline. Ideally, we'd like to have our next principal on board before the next school year. And so that will be our goal. I would like them personally to be here earlier than that, so that they can become familiar with the campus, the setting, your students, your staff, before we have students back here full-time. So that would be the goal, to have our next principal by the next school year. The other thing that you can help us with, and we seek your help and assistance, is we're going to show you on the screen all the places that we reached out to for advertisement for our principal. And there's a bunch of them. But if you know of other places that we should be posting this advertisement in order to seek the largest candidate pool that meet our qualifications, we need to know that. As I've talked to someone before, we say we don't know what we don't know, and we need your help in making sure we are sending this to all the places that could potentially identify a good candidate for us. So we're going to talk about all of those things a little in sequence, and we'll do this in a fairly informal manner. And Chair, if you could please help me to identify people that might have a suggestion or comment. We still have public comment, so we're not taking that away. And I'm asking for a point of privilege here, that we can do this a little differently for this segment. Okay,
Sure.
Thank you. And that'll allow people to, just informally say, well, don't forget about this. I did have one comment that has already been received from Paula Meckles. And if she's not here, is Paula here? Okay. So I wanted to make sure Paula was here, because I promised to her that if she did not make it tonight, that I would make sure that we would read her comments. So let's get started. So I know this is hard to see, so I don't want to be presumptuous, but I'm going to read some of it. I know my eyes are not as good as they used to be. So sometimes when things go up on the screen, I have to ask people to help me read it as well. So, our posting that we set forth had duties and responsibilities of our principal. And so let's see if we think these are the right things that we would want our principal to do. And we've got a few messages at the bottom. Oh, okay, they disappeared. Good. Okay, so lead, guide, and direct every member of the administrative, instructional, and support services teams in setting and achieving the highest standards of excellence in educational programs and operating systems. That sounds like what we want our leader to do. Be responsible for a system of supervision and evaluation for all staff. Administer and oversee the use of all facilities, property, and funds in the best interest of students and the school. Participate in budget development and submit reports to the Kentucky Board of Education, Kentucky Department of Education. So that's something that we expect our principal to do. Coordinate instructional and curriculum development activities and coordinate school activities with related agencies such as colleges and universities, career and technical education, and vocational rehabilitation. Oversee the residential student development program staff in program development and implementation. Oversee the food service program. Coordinate extracurricular programs and extended classroom instruction in cooperation with the student development supervisor, director of student life. Assist in training of staff development, implement, and monitor policies and procedures, attend school meetings and other meetings, special events, and school-sponsored programs representing the school, work with parents, families, community groups, and other educational partners. And then the last bullet, it's part of state government. We all get this last bullet on our job description, other duties as assigned, which means anything else that doesn't fall in one of those buckets. So I provide these to you to see, does this seem like an accurate description of what we expect our principal to do here at KSD? Thoughts? I'm happy to bring the mic to you, or we can be informal. Just raise your hand.
As a former principal at KSD, it's certainly a lot of work for one person. When I was here, we had a superintendent as well as a principal. And a lot of those things listed, the superintendent, not the principal.
Mhm.
Another thing, I served on the committee, and the thing that's most frustrating, we had like 12 to 15 candidates, and we didn't know the credentials. And the person selected did not have a principal's certificate. So my suggestion to you all would be, peruse the applicants, make sure they qualify for the position before the committee's ever elected.
That is an excellent comment. Excellent comment.
Because we were given timelines, and to select one person, we chose that person who didn't have principal certification. And she jumped through several hoops, only to be told at the end she didn't have a job.
Okay. So, our guest, and I'm sorry I don't know your name, sir.
Kent Mann, M-A-N-N.
Mr. Mann, thank you so much for your comments. Let's scroll up a little bit so we'll get to some of Mr. Mann's comments. If we can scroll up and look at the qualifications. Okay, here's our minimum requirements. And to Mr. Mann's point, you're going to see that he's correct. Okay? Minimum requirements. Administrative certification from the Kentucky Education and Professional Standards Board for the performance of school principal duties. Demonstrated successful leadership in working with students, staff, parents, and the general public. 3 or more years of experience in curriculum and instruction development and implementation with direct experience assisting teachers and administrators in curriculum implementation required. So Mr. Mann is absolutely correct. Per the requirements, the candidate that was recommended did not meet those requirements. And I understand what happened after that.
Were they the same requirements as the last time?
This is the job posting that was from the last time. You're absolutely correct.
Then the applicant should have been screened, in my opinion, before the committee ever saw it.
You're absolutely correct. You're absolutely correct. So, let's talk about moving forward. Appreciate your comments, Mr. Mann. You're absolutely correct, and thank you for pointing that out. We were about to get there.
Sorry.
That's okay. So, these are our minimum requirements for our principal. Comments? Paula. Oh, wait a minute. I'll let the chair recognize.
I'm going to stand up here so that people can see me signing. Thank you. My main concern is direct instruction, communication, the ability to use American Sign Language, all of those things. It has been a very big concern for the last 22 years since we had our last superintendent. Now, truth be told, there is no way in the world that any principal will physically be able to do all this work themselves. I know for a fact, because with the exception of one principal, Okay, sorry. All the principals that have been here since 2001 had a huge turnover rate. A lot of the principals that we've had, I'd say the last 15, 20 years, could not sign. We are constantly having kids complain, our own students, but they were never heard. And when we talk about minimum requirements, that's a concern to me that it's missing because we do not have anything that says that ASL is required. There are many, many states across the nation that do have that. However, we push forward and KDE continues to hire people with no ASL skills. And kids continue to be frustrated and staff as well. So what I would propose is that we do a thorough review of all the job descriptions, not the same one that was used for the last principal search. Thank you.
And your name, please, sir?
Oh, I'm sorry. I believe you didn't realize it was me. My name is Wilton McMillan.
Hi, Wilton. It's nice to see you again.
Good to see you too.
Thank you. If I can kind of respond, and we're getting into a lot of conversation here, and we do have public comment time at the end, but this is helping me walk through the job description. So I thank you, Wilton. So to Wilton's point, we have as a preferred skill, this is the last time in the last job posting, we had as a preferred skill, meaning it's not mandatory, it is preferred. We prefer to have candidates that would have that. Again, we're just talking about what the last time we did and looking for ways to improve our process. Preferred skills, experience in deaf, hard of hearing education, or American Sign Language skills. So based upon the comments, and I think this was part of what Paula had said to me in an email, we would prefer that it not be a preferred, it would be a minimum requirement, right? Okay. So as we think about that and what that looks like, it would be sort of it would be some minimum requirement of either deaf, hard of hearing education or American Sign Language. And I think maybe in one comment that I'd already received, even specifying what level of sign language, intermediate or some level higher than just entry level. The risk we take, which is okay, right? It's okay, is we are narrowing our candidate pool when we make this a minimum requirement, but it's okay that we do that, right? If this is what we want, and it may be that we need to say experience in deaf of hearing education, and it does say or, so we've got a little bit of flexibility there. It could be either or. And then when we retain our other, so it would be and these other three minimum requirements. So we can try. We can try and see what kind of candidate pool we get from that. If we don't, we will have to repost and do it again. So I think we at the Department of Education are willing to do that. We are willing to try and see what candidate pool we get. And to Mr. Mann's point, to make sure we are screening for all these other requirements so that we really have what we believe, our candidates that are coming in match the job posting. So, another comment.
We're going to take one more comment, and it's right here. Ms. Mekis, if you can go ahead and introduce yourself.
Paula Mekis. I don't think it's a risk to ask for ASL skills because the risk is to our students with having a leader without that, because you put down on job description that they need to take care of, have curriculum experience. So I think that's a minimum requirement.
Mm-hmm.
Well, they should know about, know how to communicate that to students and deaf and hard of hearing staff. So I don't see that as a risk. I think that the risk is to the students and the staff. But I don't think it should be an or. I think those should be two things that move up to minimum as a bullet and a bullet. Experience in deaf and hard of hearing education, and then the other bullet, American Sign Language with like intermediate or above skills going in.
And let me clarify, I'm not saying it's a risk as far as hiring the right person. I'm saying it's a risk that we minimize our candidate pool. You know, there are fewer and fewer people out there that are gonna meet all these requirements. And this is not unique to the principal search. I mean, anytime you add more minimum requirements to whatever position you're trying to hire, you are limiting your candidate pool. And that's okay. So we just need to be aware as we go into it that we may have a very limited candidate pool. And, you know, we'll cross that bridge when we come to it. Okay. I think that's all the questions we're going to take. The other part is about the timeline, and we've talked about that a little bit. We've talked about, you know, our goal would be to have that in the new principal in place by the beginning of the school year. So we'll move forward. I have one other thing with your indulgence, Chair, that I'd like to show. And that is all the places that we have advertised this position. So I'm not going to read all these, and we can provide a copy of this so that it would be available if anyone wants to look at it independently. And we'd actually appreciate you looking at it independently, because this is the part we don't know what we don't know. If you all know, and if you'll just kind of scroll a little bit so they can get a feel for how many places we contacted. Can we scroll? We're just in the A's. So I want you all to see all the places that we have reached out to. Now, let me say, reaching out does not mean that they then posted it, right? Reaching out means we've reached out and asked them to share with their association or their commission or, you know, whatever their organizational entity is. And again, we're still scrolling. So you see, we've reached out to lots of places trying to make sure we got a large candidate pool. We will do it again with all of these. We're down to the S's now, and it's still going. So, and I share this with you so that so we can share how hard we are really trying to find the right candidate. But if you all know, anyone in attendance or anyone else that's not here tonight, if you know of other places that we should be advertising or contacting to advertise, or even if you have a contact somewhere, if you have a contact that will help us advertise this position and get more candidates, please let us know, and we'll reach out to them, or we may recruit you and ask you to reach out on our behalf, okay? Because people have relationships. People have relationships with other entities that we may not, and they may be more willing to post it on your behalf than they will on ours, okay? So I just show that so that you can see that we do take this very seriously, and we are trying to find the very best person. So I don't want to take any more of the time. I appreciate you allowing us to come and for me to talk with each of you about our principal search. We will be putting together another timeline. We still have the, somebody on my staff's going to have to help me, but we still have the location, the distribution list for everyone that is interested in knowing how this is moving forward. And so we can still provide periodic updates. We will have to sit down and think about the timeline itself, the best time to advertise. We know in any school environment, there is a better time to put out a posting than others, right? So right now, we have principals under contract, right? And so we want to hit that sweet spot where they're thinking about, do I want to stay here or do I want to pursue another endeavor? And we want to hit that sweet spot and really hit it hard. So we will be working on that and backing up from the summer of next year so we get it on the right time and pace. So again, I thank you very much for allowing me to come and just talk with you tonight. I will stay around and listen to the rest of your meeting and listen to your public comment as well. Thank you.
All right, thank you as well. Thank you so much, Robin, for sharing with us the news about the principal search and how everything's going with that. And again, to everyone in the audience, if you know of any good resources, good places, good candidates even, send them Robin's way. Encourage them to reach out. You all know a fair group amount of people, and let's get them in contact with the people here. Moving on to Dr. Lynn Petrie. Come on down. Are you lazy?
You're supposed to have this stuff ready for me. Testing. All right.
In the next meeting, you'll sign, right? You'll be ready?
I'll do a little sign. I'll definitely try. Yes. Okay. Thank you all for having me tonight. I appreciate it. I just want to give a thank you to everybody who has had a lot of patience with me as I'm learning not only the sign, but just the school, the community, and everything involved with it. I talked in the last meeting about just being part of that dash in between 1823 and today. So my dash just keeps getting longer and longer, but I'm trying to do as much stuff within my dash as I can, productive for students. No matter if they're hearing or deaf, I know how to do the transition part and create opportunities for students and increase that academic standard. So that is my main purpose while I'm here. I came in with three main objectives: to increase safety, focus safety on campus. I wanted to increase the academic standards here, and I also wanted to increase opportunities for transition. I think I've accomplished that in my first 4 months, and I'm looking to increase that vision. I also, along with those three main bullet points, I've added the increase in transparency to stakeholders, parents, students, so that they know what I'm trying to envision to create opportunities for them. I've produced newsletters, monthly newsletters that I'm getting out to parents, stakeholders in the community, letting them know what's going on campus and trying to draw them in to see all the wonderful opportunities that we're creating for students. I've created an increase in the social media presence. I don't know if any of y'all are on Facebook or Twitter. I'm hoping that you're kind of getting aggravated seeing all the stuff from KSD and what we're doing. So I want every time you log into Facebook, it's a KSD message, being positive influences for our students and also our teachers, because they work very hard daily creating that opportunity for our kids. As far as my ongoing vision is connecting with the community, getting KSD outside the gates into the community and drawing the community into us. I want to increase the activity that we have. I also want to let parents, stakeholders know the resources available, not only within KSD here in Danville, but the long reach that KSD has statewide, from Paducah to Pike. Letting them know in the community what resources are available for the deaf community and where they live. So I think we're accomplishing that as well. The post-school transition, we will have a post-secondary transition coordinator that's going to help here at Kentucky School for the Deaf and also Kentucky School for the Blind. That is going to be arriving imminently. I can't tell you the date. I'm hoping December 1st. So that'll be a good opportunity for kids to work on getting their driver's permits, work on getting them job experience, getting out and talking to the human resources within the community in the careers pathways that they want to approach. Next, I'm going to kind of introduce the new staff that we've brought on since August. I want to recognize Emily Couch. She is a house parent. Micah Wallace, Student Development Associate. Manny Navarrete, Student Development Associate. Bethany Van Beaver, Art Teacher. And Hannah Nunn, our new LPN, supposed to be starting December 16th. So that is our new staff. Very happy that they've come on and joined us. We currently have 10 vacancies that's open here at KSD. So just letting you know that. Before I get finished, I did get the heat working in this building, so hope everybody's happy with that. Any complaints, direct them toward me at the end. I do have a special presentation. I need Scott Hahn back here. I'm going to give him a certificate of appreciation.
He said, what did I do?
You did plenty. So, but I just wanted to thank you and give you appreciation. I wanted to present you with the certificate, which I conveniently left over there at my seat because I thought I was going to be sitting down talking, but I'm going to go get that and I'll be right back. I need somebody to volunteer to take a picture. Turn that off. As outgoing chair is service on the Kentucky School Board, or Kentucky School for the Deaf Advisory Council. I want to thank you and present this certificate.
Thank you. Thank you very much. And thank you all.
Stand up on the stool.
Thank you very much again. It's very pretty.
I forgot, I need to do updates. Sorry. T. Hewlett, you want to give us some campus updates since Rick Westerfield is not here?
Can I do it from here back to you?
I got in trouble for trying to sit down.
Okay, I'm not, my boss is here, I'm not going through trouble.
Can you use the mic, Mr. Chief?
Well, I need to, I will if you ask me to.
Please. It's for the camera.
Okay, I can do that. Before I start though, two things. One, I was gonna take the blame for the heat, but now that I know that Mr. Petrie turned it on, I'm off the hook. You know. So I'm just gonna let you all talk to him about the warmth in here. Good evening. It's such an awesome opportunity when I get to speak to the advisory board. And tonight's a little extra special because Coach Yance, my friend Wilt, who I haven't seen in a while, Archie, I don't know where you've been. I used to get to see you all the time. Those that I don't get to see very often, in my early days here that were very supportive of the work that we were doing. It's good to see you all so much. So let me talk a little bit about our facilities and where we are right now. And I've got some of what Rick would have given to you tonight is embedded into what I'll share. So I will just go through that list and let you know where we are. But it's always, again, good to be here. And the interesting thing is when Ms. Kenny is not being interim commissioner, she is my supervisor. So I guess that makes her my double supervisor right now. And it's an honor. I can tell you that she's been on campus before, and a lot of the things that you've seen happen here and the work that goes forward through the department, she has been our advocate to push funding and 6-year plans and things. So she's very much a staunch advocate of the work that we do here, and we do say thank you to that, Ms. Kenny. And then Greta Helton's here on the OSIL side of programming. So we have to balance that. And so she's very helpful in helping us guide that as we look at how we do facilities and where we do them so that we get the most impact from the dollars that we have here on campus. So it's very special to have both of those ladies with us tonight. So let's just go across the road and work our way back to the campus. Let's start with Jacobs Hall. As you know, we've been working on a project to fix the staircases. We had an incident back some time ago with an accident. And so we've worked really hard with the design team, and we're ready, what we call phase C. That means we're ready to go out to bid. And so that should happen anytime. And what we're doing, we've worked also with the Historical Society. We've tried to be really careful to not take away from the architecture of that building because it is so special to the campus. It's a beautiful building, as we all know. But not only that, we just want to make sure it's safe so that as we use the floors and move upstairs that everybody has the opportunity to be safe both going up and down. But let me caution you because I know one of the things when we're in that building is the beauty of the spiral staircase. But I would just let you know that in going forward, this project does not address that. And the reason being it's built on what we call a cantilever system. And that is failing. And to take all of that staircase out and try to redo that would severely change the architecture. So we will keep it intact. It's not a danger to fall on anybody or anything like that, but it is there. But we will use the main entrance and the stairs going up to the other floors and have the railing. So I just want to go ahead and mention that. I know that sometimes Mr. Hahn gets put on the spot about using some of the other portions of the building and the stairways. So I think it's best to let you know from a safety standpoint, why we're not addressing that, at least at this time, because it would change the integrity of the architecture in that building. But we will do the main stairs with a railing and still leave the railing that's there, but we will have a higher code-approved railing in that building. So again, that's ready to go out to bid anytime. We have approved phase C, so hopefully that'll happen pretty quick. Moving across campus to Brady Hall, that building, the renovation downstairs of the dorm area is about 99% done. Technically, it is finished. There's a couple things that are just cosmetic that the construction company is going to come back and address, but again, it's purely cosmetic, and that building will be able to be occupied at the discretion of Dr. Petrie and your staff. If at some point, whatever that needs to look like, you'll have that opportunity there. Also, we had another project going on. We have a new cooling tower, and that's complete. It's up, operational. We had a little bit of hiccup in contracting with a company that's supposed to keep the water and the chemicals accurate so that the system runs and maintains itself. We've now worked through that contract. They had some changeover, and the person that did that for us left. And so I'm gonna assume they just didn't tell anybody. So it created a dilemma on our end, getting it started and running, but we now have that worked out. And so that building from an air, being air controlled is fine. Later on in a new pool of money that I'll address in just a moment, there are 73 air units in the ceiling of Brady, and we're gonna take all of those out and replace them, just because 2 or 3 have failed, and we know that once 2 or 3 fail, 2 and 3 become 4 and 5, and so it's just easier for us to change it. But that will be a separate project that we'll have designed probably early spring, and to take care of that. So that takes care of Brady Hall. Let's move over to Thomas Gym. The electric is back on. We had to shut the building down because there was a lot of electrical work that has to be done, or had to be done, to support the new HVAC system. The building is air conditioned, but for those of you that have suffered through many graduations with the sweat trickling down your back while it was nice and warm, that should no longer be a problem. We're air conditioning the gym, and so that's a wonderful addition to campus and graduation, so that you can sit there without feeling like you do tonight with the sweat running down and the warmth. So that's why we had to do the electrical piece and take the building offline, was to get the electrical service and get all of that in there. And I want to say, I'm not sure which one, Ms. Kingsley was here. I just want to say thank you for her patience in scheduling our teams to be in other places so they could get their seasons in, because there's no good time to take a building offline, and we had to do that. And she was very good to work with us to make that happen. So now that part's done, and we're into the really hard part of conduit, electrical. I won't bore you with all the things that have to go on, setting the new units and getting all that done. So we're on schedule, we're on time. We've run into a couple of things that are not big deals, but when we opened up the ceilings, there was some rust and things on metal support beams. So we're gonna have to clean those and do a new treatment to them so that that doesn't have any more deterioration. Moving on around campus, if we go to Middleton Hall, and some of you will know here on campus, we did the roof not too long ago. In our new pool of money that we have that we're working on right now, I'll talk about the bigger scope of that pool in just a moment, but there'll be a new HVAC system in Middleton Hall. And then also, as you know, or if you don't know, I'd like to let you know tonight, that we have money to renovate Middleton Hall. And again, I think we were able to solidify that with a campus tour with Commissioner Kinney and Karen Worth and Scott Craig out of the department, when they realized, maybe we should do some work there. So we're in the design phase of that, the beginning of the design phase. We meet on November 28th on site to start having the conversation. Much like I did with the Lee Hall project, we will ask staff to be a part of that so that we're all on the same page. And then how do we want to repurpose any portion of that building? We'll also be talking with Ms. Hilton in her office about programming other things there. So it won't go back exactly as it is, because that may not be the best use of that building. It'll be a dorm, but maybe some of those multi-purpose rooms can be repurposed into something that's more beneficial for our students. So we want to have that conversation while we're in design. And so as we move forward, we'll know what that looks like. So we're just on the front end of that, but again, there'll be more communication coming about that. And again, I'll be asking some in this room to be a part of that conversation so that we can hear from all our stakeholders and understand how do we best use Middleton Hall. So that's coming. If we can come to this building for a minute, again, it's nice and warm, so we know that the heat works well. Thank you, Dr. Petrie. All kidding aside, 70 degrees in November is a little odd, and so when you don't get the control box that runs the system, you can't operate it, and that's where we've been. It was out of my hands, it was out of the design teams, the department, Rick. It's a supply issue, and we all know what that's been over the last few years. So the control box is scheduled to be here, which is great, and we'll get it installed and get it up and run, ready to run But with winter coming on now, we may not put the full load on it until spring and have it ready when the weather flips back. But that's what's happened here in Kerr. I mean, the new unit's there. It's just this box that we can't seem to get here. That has been the great consternation for me and all those on my design team is pressing to try to say, where is it? Why don't we have it? And no one can give us an answer because it's just not here. I mentioned to you just a minute ago about the new pool of money. We have a pool of $33 million, and it's not just for KSD. Part of it is KSD, KSB, and the FFA Center. So we share that, and we were on a meeting this week with KDE and all the partners talking about what that looks like. We had a team, our new design team for HVAC is CMTA Engineering and Design. And so we did an account of every building. And when we looked at all the buildings on campus at KSD, we have a total unmet need of $27 million. Now we'll say that and let that soak in. We have $33 million to do all the campuses. Now, in that number, we don't take into consideration the fact that we've already done Kerr, Brady, and those things have already been done. So that number would back out. So where we are now is we're looking at what's next. So getting Brady done, getting Middleton Hall done. Those will be the first two. And then we're going to see what those cost, and we'll work our way down. We have until December of 2026 to have that spent. And so we'll design projects and have them ready to go, but we'll have a priority of doing those things. In that project will be the 73 air units I talked about a minute ago for Brady. They'll be part of that along with these other pieces. And then we'll look at what we're doing on campus. We're getting ready to do the final part of Argo, which is the HVAC in the art room. We're doing a new dust collection system in the industrial arts class. And then also outside the art room, the ramp that is not in any shape, form, or fashion handicap accessible. We're going to redo that. So that's on our list as part of that project so that we can fix that and our students that have that special accommodation needed that they can access that building in a reasonable way. So that's what where we are. In the report from CMTA, there are a number of things. One of the issues we're going to have, though, is that money is so specific. So how do we tie in electrical, lighting, and things with money that is HVAC? So that's the challenge that was in our conversation this week. So we got work to do on our end on how do we make that happen. But there's a second piece in this report, and I know that here and sometimes even in Louisville that we hear complain about, is a building safe, is a building not safe? Our buildings all meet code. Now, as we touch the building, then we have to come to the newest code. And so that's what we're looking at. In this report, we have some fire safety alarm issues, and all those work. Over the years, we've replaced them and made adjustments. What is in the report is the systems that we're using are now antiquated. We can't get parts. So we're going to have to look at how do we upgrade that. I mean, if we have an issue and pull the fire alarm, it all works. But the problem is that those systems go down. And I know Andrew's back there, and he's worked diligently. He can sit there and tell you all the problems he's had with the fire and safety systems. We have to get that up to date. And so that's going to be in the report, and that'll be a different pool of money that we'll be working with out of KDE, and we have a pool of safety money to address that. So. We're looking at every aspect. The good thing about the CMTA report is that's what they did. They looked at everything on campus. They didn't ask us what we were doing, going to do, have done. They just took each building as it is and made an assessment. So that's why that number is so high. So when we get down to really where we are and what we've done and what funding we already have, that number will come down. So, and finally, this spring, we will be putting out another project out to bid for Brady to do a new roof. So Brady will have new HVAC, the dorms will be fixed, a fire system, and a roof. So we're slowly getting there. I mean, there was, as you all know, for so many years we didn't have funding, and now that we've gotten some, we've been able to address these things and really move forward. And then finally, I will tell you that we're in the early design stages of the window shades covering blinds for Grove Hall as well. So that should start to be into the design in the next, hopefully a couple of weeks. I thought it should have already started, but the design team is really busy on some big projects. And so I've been pushed to the back burner just a little bit. So that is the report from my side on capital, and as well as from Rick's. Let me ask one thing. I know in Marshall, in the front rooms, there was a little bit of mold. That's been addressed. What we found, no one seemed to figure it out, so we got up there, and the issue is the outside air vents were turned wide open. So we were bringing in all this moist air with no way to dehumidify it and get it out. And so that's why it was just in the front. So we found those have been fixed, and so we'll work on that, and that should take care of that. But just let you know, that's why the moisture was there, is somehow, we don't know how, we don't know why, but somebody has opened those vents wide open, and it created an issue for us. So that is the report for what I do on the capital side and where Rick is. If there's a question, I'll be glad to answer that for you, or try to answer it for you.
Our chair is asking anyone in the audience, quick question for Mr. Hewlett? Seeing none? Wait,
I knew this was.
sorry, T. Just to let you know. Do you have, let me come up front. All right. Do you have any deaf input over all these projects that are being conducted?
Well, these projects were done, we hired the CMTA to do a look at where our systems were. No, it didn't, none of us were involved. They brought in their team of engineers and mechanical experts and looked at every building and gave us the report. Now is where we, as a school and as a KDE and the staff, start to look at how do we go about moving it forward. No, it was just a set of independent eyes to just look and say, hey, this is what we found.
Okay. Bringing up Middleton Hall, for example. I understand that it will be renovated soon, and I think you would receive a lot of input on the renovations just from deaf individuals. I just want to throw my name in the bucket for that. Dr. Petrie has a comment.
Hey, T, we did have a accessibility team tour campus and gave recommendations. We used professionals here, had a deaf hearing accessibility tour, and they gave recommendations and presented them to Mr. Westerfield.
Actually, and that's true, they did, and then we had the privilege of meeting with them as well and hearing some of the concerns in places that we know that, as I said, by the book, maybe we're okay, but in reality we need to fix it. So, yeah, there is that list out there, and we are getting input. To give you an example, we had the money to just do a Lee Hall study, and Rhonda Bodner and Scott Hunt served on that committee with me, and as well as the design team and KD. So, yeah, we're very much inviting, trying to get people to help us think through this so that we can take our dollars and get the best use that we can for our kids. But yes, if you want to throw your name in the hat, I'd love to work with you again.
All right, thanks. Our chair's asking for a final comment. Mr. Harris?
I'm getting old, sorry. First, I want you guys to excuse me, I have my hat on, but I have a few places that I want to cover, so I'm going to keep it on. But I just want to emphasize that I do know, you probably are anticipating my question, but we would like to have an auditorium in Lee Hall. We have spoken about that, and I beg you, please do not disregard that or think that we no longer want that. Please take that into consideration in your future planning. I hope you remember that.
Mr. Hahn, would you like to address that for Mr. Harris, please?
No. I want to say it to you so that you know.
Well, let me just say this, Mr. Harrison, thank you for your passion. That in that Lee Hall study, there is an extremely nice deaf-friendly auditorium in that package.
Huh?
And multi-purpose rooms. I mean, that building, when we ever get funding, that's the thing, you know, we have to have the money, but Mr. Hahn and Ms. Boner can tell you that was an extremely important part of how we were going to utilize that space. And so, yes, there is an auditorium there, and dressing rooms, and production rooms, and everything that they thought was necessary was put into that design. So as of right now, the design that we have laying on the table does include the auditorium.
Perfect, thank you.
Archie Harris, I want to confer. We're gonna try to name that building after you. I know for years and years, you have advocated for an auditorium at Lee Hall. So yes, definitely, thank you. Oh, almost 40 years, excuse me. Wow.
Finally, Mr. Harris, a question that I can answer that you like my answer. Times are good.
Thank you, Mr. Hewlett. Thank you, Mr. Hewlett, for your updates. Next, I'd like to ask Ms. Shannon Sparkman, our Director of State Schools, to bring us her update.
Good evening, my name is Shannon Sparkman. I'm glad you could all join us this evening. I just have a couple of quick updates. No. Is that better? Yes. That is better. Okay. I just have a couple of quick updates for you all. First, I wanted to let you know that recently the Kentucky Board of Education established a state schools committee. Their first meeting was held on October 10th, and at that time, Emma Riley and I presented the committee with an overview of Kentucky School for the Blind, Kentucky School for the Deaf, campuses, the educational services that we provide, as well as a little bit about the outreach program. I wanted to let you know about that. The next thing I really just wanted to do is introduce you to our new staff. I believe Shelley Badgett was introduced in August. I'm not quite sure, but she's joining us. She's in the back row. She is our new Director of Special Education. And then as of October 1st, we have Emma Riley, who has joined us as our Assistant Director for the Division of State Schools. So I'm very excited. And I'm hoping that one day soon I'll be able to get up here and address the advisory board in sign language. Emma's teaching me, learning slowly, but I am learning a little bit. So hopefully one day I'll be able to do that. I know everybody's warm. It's been a long night and we still have a few things to do. So I'm going to go ahead and turn that over to the chair. Thank you.
Thank you, Shannon. And we're so glad that you're going to continue learning sign language. We look forward to next summer. You'll be signing right away. So as the chair, we have some goals and objectives. Typically on our agenda, I would like to ask the advisory board members if they have any goals or objectives or recommendations at this time. Okay, we would now like to open the floor to public comment, to those that have signed up. We would like to ask anyone that is making a public comment to stand on the opposite side in front of the background, behind Ms. Yance. You have 5 minutes each. Ms. Secretary, Ms. Bush, if you don't mind to keep track of time for us. And please stay focused on the topic that you have signed up to make your public comment about. We have Miss Allison Tucker. And Allison, if you'd like to stand on that side for us. Okay. Her topic is related to hiring more staff that are familiar with deaf culture. Allison?
Hello, KSD Board. My name is Allison Tucker. I'm in 11th grade. I'm 17 years old. I've grown up here at KSD. I've been here since I was 3 years old, so 14 years. And I wanted to bring up an issue about something important to me, the hiring of staff, whether it be KSD principal, teachers, maintenance, housekeeping in general, but the hiring of staff and what that looks like. I would like you guys to consider and make sure that you're aware that we need individuals who have background in deaf education. We need individuals who sign, who are motivated to learn ASL, who jump in, who talk with our staff, who talk with our students and can communicate with them.
Thank you, Ms. Tucker.
Okay.
The next person is Shonda Barker. Come on up, Shonda. And her topic is a concern about quality of food provided at the school.
Hello, everyone. KSD Advisory Board and everyone present. I'm Shonda Barker. I'm a senior here at KSD, and I would like to make a request for better planning of food for KSD, for the cafeteria.
Thank you, Ms. Barker. Shonda, do you care to share your frustrations with the food in the cafeteria?
Right now, our food tastes so bland, and we don't have enough food. We have small amounts. There's really just not enough. I've been at schools before where you had options of delicious choices of foods, but here we don't have very many options.
Thank you, Ms. Barker. We will work with the principal at the school to look into that. The next public comment is Karen Schultz. And the topic is concern about the State Resource Center.
Hello, I'm Karen Schultz, and thank you for your time this evening. I am a retired teacher from KSD of 30 years, and back when I was teaching back in the early 90s when Dr. Corson was still here, we were designated by regulation as the statewide resource center on deafness for the state of Kentucky, which meant several things, but primarily I knew that it meant that, we had an outreach department that went out to students in other districts and worked with parents of those deaf and hard of hearing students to help them with issues they faced with their children. We had early childhood satellite programs for children under the school age. You know, I'm not sure the exact age, but we did have 0 to 3, 3, 4s, that kind of thing. Those have since, you know, they don't exist anymore for our population of students. Those satellite programs, which were not only served those students out in the state of Kentucky, but were also feeder programs to our school. Brought in many students to our school when we used to have those satellite programs, which don't exist anymore. We also provided, over the years, have provided 3-year evaluations for school districts who don't have qualified staff to work with deaf and hard of hearing students and get appropriate assessments. So our staff here on campus would assess those students. And often those students would come to our campus and have their first opportunity of being around a deaf school. Parents did not even know we existed. So those 3-year evaluations were very good opportunities for those kids to tour the campus, to see it as an option for their placement, for their education. To my knowledge, though, all of those things are not really existing with strength like they were when the Resource Center was first established more than 20 years ago. We also have, over the years, had teachers that would reach out to us as a classroom teacher asking for help for resources. That service has seemed to dwindle, and honestly, I feel like the state of Kentucky in general is looking at KSD as seeming to be shutting down, and as well as in our community. Here in Danville, they often ask questions like, what's going on there? You seem to be shutting down. You know, are you all closing soon? So I feel like as a statewide resource center for deafness by regulation, we ought to be doing more to make that word, to get that word out there to districts that we exist and what programs we have and what we can offer those children. There are many children sitting out there, and I do some part-time interpreting, and I have friends that go out in those schools as well that evaluate other teachers at college level. And there are students out there who are not getting the services they need, and often those parents don't know about our school. So I feel like it's time that the board work with administration here at KSD's campus to find a way to become that statewide resource center on deafness again that we started out to be, and has since, over the past 20 plus years, kind of diminished. So that is my hope, that maybe you will consider that this year in your work. Thank you.
Thank you, Ms. Schultz. That was some very true feedback for KSD. That was also on our agenda as well. Next is Archie Harris. If you want to come stand over here. Or excuse me, on the other side, please.
Okay, I'll do that. First, I want to introduce myself. My name is Archie Harris, and I am a retired teacher from Kentucky School for the Deaf. I worked here, I think I'm counting right, 33 years, and 4 years I worked in Virginia at the School for the Deaf. So I taught those students, and some of them came here. I've got some in the audience. Mr. Yance, one of my first students that I taught at Virginia School for the Deaf, really. And the woman beside him, her name is Gail Moore, and she had a boyfriend that was one of my students, so I'll take that connection. And I could go on and on. I know I only have 5 minutes and the timer has begun. So let me get started. I tend to let time get away from me. I am wearing my hat because I was injured in the back of my head, and I don't want to show anybody tonight, but I've got this hat to just kind of believe me that it's there. Hope that's okay with you. I have listed a few things that I want to talk about that I feel are important to be considered. Ms. Schultz, several people mentioned a lot of things that I had on my list, so I have pared it down, but I still have some things that haven't been talked about. First, I want to thank everyone for their hard work at KSD. The teachers, the administration, all the staff here at KSD in whatever capacity they're working in, thank you for your hard work. I have high respect for this school. I love it dearly. I graduated from here. I have 2 children who graduated from here. And so my mother graduated from here. I have strong roots to KSD, and I believe in it. There was a policy here that has since been removed that required everyone who worked here, whether deaf or hearing, to be able to sign at all times while on campus, especially in front of deaf children. I want to emphasize that part, in front of deaf children. The reason we are here is because of them. If they're not in here and they're not around, then you may speak, but if they're here to use American Sign Language, because people who can hear have that incidental hearing, right? You have access to the world around you, whether you want to or not, and they're able to grow and thrive in environments and improve their language. Our deaf students do not have that, but they can here at KSD. And we have to take those opportunities to be intentional about language for them and expose them to sign language. If we are not signing, we give them something called language deprivation, and we need to continue to sign. I'm not talking about those of you who are retired. I'm talking about the teachers and staff who are still here. Please sign at all times. Okay, thank you. I also want to say specifically to KDE, thank you for considering a highly qualified person to come here. We want them to sign, of course. I know that and you mentioned that in your presentation. I just want to emphasize that. I'm not saying that we prefer them. I'm saying we have to have someone who signs. There are some people at KDE themselves who have told me that if we put required, it is a discrimination against people who are hearing and cannot sign. We have to think of our students first. How can we say it's discrimination against them if they are not a minority? Okay, our students are, and we have to consider their needs. And whether that's a legislative proposal, however we need to get that through, we need to work towards that and ensure that it happens for the masses and that it's approved and is a law, and we have to require signing. The word preferred should not be considered at all. And that's just my input on that. If we have a qualified person to come, pay them well. I advocate for that too. To get people to come to work and get qualified people, we have to have great salaries. So I just want to throw that out there as well. Now, our political and bureaucratic things need to be kept out of our school. I would implore you to please treat our deaf children as children and as students, and not marginalize these kids who already have enough barriers. We want them to feel included, feel that they are human beings whose needs are being considered. I also want to ask if there are any updates about the school bus. You know, we were told that we were going to get a school bus. I have not seen anything parked out front. And it's been over a year since I've heard. I know that Mr. Westerfield told me that they're working on it. It should be arriving in January. But I want to know an update about that and where we are, because we have to, today's world, we have to emphasize safety. And without transportation for our students, besides vans and cars, we need something to get them off campus in the event of an emergency, but then also a vehicle that is safe for them to travel in. I know that there is a senator in I ran out of time. All right. Okay, one last thing. There's a senator that said that we have to have a superintendent full-time. Yes, we do. 24/7, we need a superintendent on campus. And good news, I have covered everything on my list. And I ran out of time. Thanks for listening. You guys took all the things I was going to say, so we seem to be on the same page. Thank you all.
Thank you so much, Mr. Harris. Okay, the last person signed up for public comment is Kent Mann. And he said he has already expressed his public comment earlier on in the meeting. So now our next order of business is to discuss the next advisory board meeting date. Let's get our calendars. Let's see, would that be March? Our next quarterly meeting,
It says February on the first one.
advisory board members, do you have an available date for February 13th? Kayla is saying yes. February 13th. Are all members available? Dr. Petrie? Okay. February 13th at 6 p.m. will be our next advisory board meeting. Would anyone like to make a motion to adjourn the meeting? Bethany makes a motion to adjourn. Anyone second?
I'll second.
Dr. Petrie seconds. All in favor, say aye. Meeting is adjourned. Thank you all for coming. We will see you at our next meeting.